What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I'm feeling like 100 grand.
You are listening to Inspired Insider with your host, Dr. Jeremy Wise.
Dr. Jeremy Wise here, founder of InspiredInsider.com, where I talk with inspirational entrepreneurs and leaders. Today is no different. Jordan Solender, you can check him out. His website, jordansolender.com. It's SOLENDER. You could also check out itselect.io. He's got 9 other companies. I won't mention all of them on here. But before I formally introduce you, Jordan, I always like to point out other episodes of the podcast people should check out. Since Jordan and I met through an EO connection, entrepreneur organization, people can check it out. It's all over the world. Actually, some great EO members I've had on are Robert Hartline of EO Nashville. I had Michael. So he built up a chain of cell phone stores and then sold them. It was really interesting. And he had a software. You know how it is. He's got like 6 other companies as well. Michael Attias runs CaterZen, also in EO Nashville. A very interesting, interview on how he built up his SaaS company through the restaurant business. Actually, Jordan has started a barbecue business. CaterZen helps a lot of barbecue business. Obviously, he's in Nashville, so maybe you guys should connect. But Matt Zolk, Key Renter Property Management in EO Tulsa, just sharing how he built up, he was doing investment in properties and he's like, this is a pain. I need a team around this. And they started doing that for other people. So he manages property. So that and many, many more, check them out. This episode is brought to you by Rise25. At Rise25, we help businesses connect to their dream relationships and partnerships. We do that in a few ways. One, we're an easy button for a company to launch and run a podcast. We do the strategy, accountability, and the full execution and production. Number 2, we're an easy button for companies gifting. So we make gifting and staying top of mind for clients, partners, prospects, even staff. Simple, easy, and affordable. You just send us the addresses. We'll do everything else. So Jordan, we kind of call ourselves the magic elves that run in the background that make it stress-free for companies to build amazing relationships. And that's the number one thing in my life. I'm always looking at ways on how I can give to my relationships. I have found no better way over the past 15 years to profile the people I admire in my podcast and send them sweet treats in the mail. So you can check it out at rise25.com or email us at support@rise25.com. I'm super excited. Jordan Solender is a tech entrepreneur and he's founder of IT Select. They transform how IT leaders buy technology by replacing slow, expensive procurement cycles with faster, smarter, AI-powered models. His journey actually began when he was 13, right? His snowblower service. It evolved into launching a successful DJ company in high school. He went on to build a technology advisory firm that grew rapidly, tripling its team and reaching an 8-figure exit. And like I mentioned, he's got several other companies, barbecue, restaurant, capital company, and even a coaching business, which we'll go into because all the stuff that he's done to remove himself and optimize the sales funnel and all these things. People are asking him, how do I do this, Jordan? So Jordan, thanks for having me. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. What an honor to be on another EO members podcast, as well as Inspired Insider. So this is awesome.
I'm excited. And just start off, and we'll start with IT Select, and we'll go from there. But talk about IT Select a little bit and what you do, because I know a lot of the learnings come from IT Select and your other event company. So let's IT Select. What do you guys do?
Yeah, absolutely. So IT Select, quick elevator pitch, is we are IT selection as a service. Think of us as an IT broker. We don't get paid by you. We get paid by the vendor. We are an agnostic advisory firm that brings the right providers to you by doing a short and fast needs assessment. And then from there, you pick the provider, you save time, you save money. So what takes you by yourself normally 90, 120 days, we're doing in 30 to 60 days.
How did you come across that model? Because when I hear IT, I hear we're going to run all your back-end systems and things like that. You kind of took a different route.
Yeah. I mean, what we found was procurement was broken, right? Like procurement should be a growth lever. It's time we change that. Procurement should be something that, one, the IT person shouldn't be doing. The headaches that we hear constantly are all right, I need a new solution. And when a CTO goes out to the marketplace, he does a little Google foo, right? And he says, this is what I'm looking for. He types in the feature, then he deals with an SDR that we've all talked about, and talked to, a guy out of college qualifying you. As a CTO and IT manager, IT director, VP, you don't have this kind of time. You have a lot of people relying on you to run the organization's back-end operations, right? Email and cloud and whatnot. So you go through the SDR, and then, a couple of days later, you talk to the sales guy. The sales guy says, okay, let's do a demo. It's another week later. Then we're talking to an engineer doing the demo. Finally, we go back to the sales guy. We get the pricing. And after the pricing, we go back and forth negotiating. Now I need executive buy-in. So now I need to come up with a deliverable for an executive buy-in. At this point, we're at 4 to 8 weeks, depending on how complicated this process is or what the solution is for scoping and how technical it is. Then we get to the end. And a lot of the times, Jeremy, the CTOs and the VPs and the IT directors get to the end with the pricing and they realize, this isn't exactly what I needed and it doesn't check all the boxes. Now, we've just wasted 4 to 6 weeks on one solution. And typically you need 3 or 4 bids. You want to do some research. You want to make sure you're getting the best price, the best fit, right? All the features you want. You want to make sure you can grow into a solution, not out of one. This is where IT Select comes in. We're going to do a short needs assessment, something very familiar to, say, what the Deloitte's, PwC's, BCG's of the world do. We're going to gather all the quantitative details of the KPIs and operational considerations that your team might need, what matters most to everybody. Then we're going to go out to the marketplace. We're going to find the top 3 providers that do everything you need within budget, within deployment timeframes, within all those KPIs. And we're going to say, here you go. Here are the 3 that we recommend, and we're going to organizationally put them on your calendar in a way where you're not dealing with the time constraints and disparaging meetings all over the place with your team. We're going to organize it. We're going to make sure that the process is very efficient in how you evaluate them. We're going to have scorecards and data books around how each of them could perform for you, both from a financial perspective as well as a features perspective. And from there, we'll make sure that the process is really efficient, right? It's not going to be all over the place. You're not going to be wasting your time. We're going to save time. We're going to save money.
I'm curious, there's a couple of things that stick out on your website, which I want to go through. One is decision maker dinners, right?
Yeah.
This is not a normal thing you see on a website. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, decision maker dinners are really cool. They've really taken form over time. It was just a idea I had to get, customers that were like-minded, not even with projects involved, in the same place, that I was just like, hey, we should share some ideas. These people will get along with these people, et cetera. So the first one was in Philadelphia back in early 2025, like in January. We did it at like a Fogo de Chao, rented a room, right? And we got
unlimited meat. You can't go wrong with that, right?
Unlimited meat, unlimited ideas. There's a tagline right there. So that being said, we got I think it was 8 to 10 CTOs and decision makers. Some were customers of mine, some weren't, right? Some were just potentials and they brought a friend in a room, and we gave them a scenario, right? Like, you get hit with ransomware. What do you do next? And then we just kind of went around the table and we talked about this is where I'm strong. This is where I'm not strong. This is where, we could have probably done better because this actually happened to us. Everybody signs an NDA before getting into the room, right? We want everybody to feel comfortable. Typically, we're making sure that these 8 to 10 people aren't competitors in any way, so different industries, different markets, that kind of thing. They were all around the Philadelphia area though. And then we had 2 vendors that specialized in the topic. Right. And I made it very clear to the vendors, this is not a sales conference. This is not a sales pitch. We want you to come in, and after everybody has gone, you can say, here's how you would have alleviated the problems that they would have had in how they addressed the ransomware issue. And that's it. After we did the question and the round table, we just kind of, just had some chatting. We had dinner, and then afterwards we had cigars. It was a lot of fun. Outside on the patio. It was a really good time. So we've done this in a few cities now. We did it in Philly. We did it in Minneapolis. We did it in Dallas, San Jose.
How do you choose the city?
It's really just where we have
your
a cluster
customers, Jordan, like for this company, they could be all over the US, I take it?
All over the U.S.
Yeah.
So we have customers in 38 states right now. Nothing is helping us decide outside of where we have a cluster of customers that wanna do this.
Yeah. So you'll look at
Now,
like a concentration and you're like, oh, Minnesota seems good. We have a bunch of people there. Let's do a dinner.
exactly. We have a request to do it in New York, but we don't have a ton of customers in New York. So we said, hey, if we can, drum up enough interest, we'll do one there, maybe at like Nobu or something like that, right? We want to have a great dining experience. We want to have a great situation for the vendor to come in and alleviate any weak points in what a customer might see. So there should be a lot of value on both sides.
Yeah, I think again, we'll talk a little bit about the sales process and sales funnel, but that's like just a unique way of getting people together and kind of a non-salesy add value environment. One, they're getting food. Do you have people typically pay for, like, how do you structure that piece? Are you paying for the thing, or maybe there's the sponsors that basically help offset the cost? 'Cause I know these
100%.
dinners could be expensive. I mean, I've run events and 20 or 30 people. It gets pricey.
Yeah, it gets pricey. So these are sponsored transparently, right? In the invites, the private invites, because it's invite only. You can't like sign up. You know, uh, it is completely sponsored by the two vendors that we would bring in, right? So they're paying for the dinners. Customers, and can get some free swag, which is fine. Everybody loves swag stuff. We all get, right? Uh, and we make sure it's a good time. But for the most part, we try to keep the spotlight on the
The topic.
collaborative
Yeah.
networking in the topic, right? This CTO over here is doing something similar to you. You guys should be buddies, right? I have a lot of that where I've just introduced a couple CTOs to each other, and they've shared ideas and expertise.
Yeah. I'm curious. I know you can't share names or whatever the case is, but some of the advice you mentioned, you get hit with ransomware, right? And it's what's like some good advice people gave around the table that if a company's listening, either to prevent it or if they are experiencing it.
Stop, drop, and roll. No. Don't do that in your data center. It's probably super dirty, unless you have a very hygienic data center. But immutable backups is a great place to start, right? Having backups that ransomware can't get into, testing those backups, right? So if you don't have a backup system that you are constantly testing, right, talk to us and we'll make sure we have you with a service or a solution where you constantly test the state of those backups. How many times? Oh my God, I would be a very, very rich man if I had $1, even just for how many times I've heard an IT administrator say, I tested my backups and they were corrupted, right? It's like, well, you clearly weren't testing enough because, that you would know that and you would do another backup, et cetera, and fix that. So if you aren't testing your backups, talk to me. If you don't have immutable backups from ransomware, talk to me. If you don't have backups off-site or in the cloud, talk to me, right? We want to get you in a better place.
I'm wondering in this business, if you look back at the other businesses, what are some challenges or mistakes that you now do differently with IT Select because you learn from those things from, the 17 other businesses in the past?
Oof. Well, I mean, this kind of leads into what I've started with the coaching, right? Is figuring out ways to work on the business and not in the business, right? Removing myself from the business, right? So, and that's, just to pivot a little bit here, if that's all right. That's what I'm doing with the coaching. It's purely just helping founders remove themselves as the bottleneck, right? By systemizing and optimizing and automating their businesses so they can scale without everything depending on them. So all of my businesses, I really practice that. I practice, auditing, what are the things that are completely repetitive every single time? What am I in on the day to day? When I refer to the bottleneck, what is the choke point? Where are things not being able to scale? Typically, that's you, that's the owner, that's the founder. The amount of businesses that I see every day, including my own at one point, right? Until I kind of came up with my framework to evaluate, it was bottlenecked by me. I had to pull myself out. I needed to scale. I needed to scale faster. I needed to run, faster, scale harder. and make sure that I was, documenting and delegating, So, I mean, I could go into a
Why don't we
billion
start with
stories.
why don't we start with the event company and maybe
Sure.
talk through some of the bottlenecks you discovered and how you moved yourself
Yeah,
throughout
yeah.
it?
The most recent one, this is super fresh, right? Was uh, my team for the events company. So we do about 450 weddings alone a year at one. I have three events companies. One of them we'll just talk about is a company called Maryland's DJ. We do about 450 weddings a year. Okay, uh, we get about 30 to 50 inbound leads a month, right? Just people on our website saying we want info, right? So immediately they get hit with an email just in an automated fashion to book a call with somebody on our sales team. But I realized about 50 to 60% of those leads, weren't booking time, and hey, 40, 50% is great still, right? Booking time. But it's an inbound lead. They're requesting info. It should be more than that. It should be higher. They're requesting that info. So I said to my team, all right, well, let's go ahead and call every single one of these leads that comes in addition to an email. So I have my team calling. Some of my team is located overseas for operational just efficiency sake. I have a good amount of team overseas, like most people. So they're calling every single lead, right? But that's still a bottleneck. It's bound by the time of that person. So I thought to myself, okay, well, how do we get, the most optimal results in a call, within 30 seconds of somebody submitting that lead? I want it to be fast every time. So we deployed an AI voice agent that calls every single lead 30 seconds after they submit that web form, which is pretty cool. And they're taking the data from the web form, we're passing it through to the AI agent. And the goal of the AI agent is to do three things. It's to qualify the lead on budget. Okay. The second thing is, are you the right person to talk to about your corporate event, your wedding, your private event, whatever it may be? And the third is to make sure that we're available on that date. So it's checking the CRM, it's checking the form that they submitted info. And then the goal is to book a meeting with the sales team. So it's connected into all of our systems to actually book time on the calendar. And if it doesn't get them on the phone, it leaves a voicemail. And the callback number is an actual live person. So right there removes the bottleneck of somebody on my team being able to call fast enough with enough information, which is nice.
Do people know if they answer if it is a voice agent, or is the technology that good where they wouldn't know?
It's pretty good. I think you could still tell it's AI. I was talking to a bunch of EOers last night at dinner, actually, and I was showing them a couple of the recordings, and they were like, I would know it's AI. And I'm like, well, you're not the normal person, though. There's a few recordings where, you have somebody's mom, talking to the agent, and, the agent's name is Kelsey, and says, hey, I'm Kelsey, and I'm here to talk to you about your daughter's wedding, on this date. And she's like, oh, thanks for calling. She has no idea. It's adorable, to be honest. And then you have people in their like late 20s, early 30s, which is our normal ICP, that immediately know it's AI, but they don't care because they're getting the information immediately.
Yep.
So
how do
it's
you
pretty cool.
train that? Like how much of the conversation does it transfer over to someone if it asks a question that they're not sure about, like transfer to a salesperson? How does the agent get trained? You train the agent, so it kind of can, obviously it's a conversational, any questions or things can come up.
So a lot of it is a brain dump, right? You want to give the AI agent as much as your brain as you can. The best part about AI is that you can give it a golden image, and it's going to regurgitate, everything off that golden image. You can say, if the client says this or has this sentiment, then I want you to respond with this. If it has that, then respond with this. A lot of if-then stuff, but it's a lot of brain dump, right? You want to put as much information into your custom GPT or your custom PDF knowledge base as you can for this voice agent. That way it knows what to do and when to do it.
So that's one you noticed a bottleneck kind of in the lead and sales process with the AI voice agent. What else? I don't know. It could be with that you've removed yourself or team through automation or AI.
Sure. So let me tell Another recent one. So about my buddy, we'll call him Tom. I just helped him out recently. So I'm working with Tom. Yeah, he's the founder, another EOer of a 7-figure marketing agency. Super smart guy. Great team. He's had his team for 15, 20 years. Everything in the business ran through Tom, though. Right. Everything ran through him. He was approving every invoice. He was answering every question, reviewing every client email before they went out. Basically, nothing moved unless Tom touched it. He had a great team for back-end operations and customer success, but Tom was very involved. Right. He was definitely working in the business, not on the business, as I say. So I asked him, he's coming to me and he's telling me, he's like, dude, I'm super burned out. Right. Like I am not sure I want to scale this thing to a point of exit. I'd like to exit within 3 to 5 years. It's like, I know, but I'm super burned out. And I said, what's one thing that drives you crazy, but still depends on you? And he goes real fast. He goes, invoices. He goes, I'm spending like 2 hours a day just approving invoices and payments. And I'm like, invoices and payments? And he goes, yeah. And I'm like, okay, so let's just remove yourself one thing. Just remove yourself from one thing, right? Let's just focus on one thing to remove yourself from and take it from there, right? Remove yourself from one thing. If you could take anything away, right, what would that one thing be? So we worked together and we built a small automation using an automation platform, right? In his accounting software, it was QuickBooks, that auto approved anything under a certain amount and flagged any exceptions for review, right? So this single change alone in his busy season gave him 10 hours back every week. 10 hours. I mean, what could you do with 10 hours? I mean, you're an entrepreneur. I mean, what could you do with 10 extra freaking hours, man? So
I wouldn't start a barbecue restaurant, but that's what I wouldn't do. But
well, investor in a barbecue restaurant.
Right.
Didn't start it, but investor.
Okay.
But the best part about this whole thing, though, is that once Tom saw that automation could replace like that one area, he comes back to me the next week. Literally the next week. We hadn't even seen like the benefits of like a month. It was literally the next week. It was like a Tuesday morning. He calls me and he goes, that saved me a ton of time, right? I'm not worried about it. Everything under a certain amount, if it matches a certain criteria, it just auto approves. It's nice. My team's not waiting on me anymore. My team's happier. I'm happier. 10 hours easy. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, let's pick one more thing. So then he starts looking into it and he's like, all right, well, there's client onboarding I'm really involved with. There's proposals, there's scheduling. So we're like, I don't know, a month and a half now later. He's not buried in approvals anymore. He feels like he's leading the business again, right? He's talking strategy with me, right? Which he hasn't talked to me about strategy like ever, right? Because he's been so ingrained in everything, entrenched. The lesson, I think the takeaway here is, and I do this every day with my own businesses, right? It's to try to make them better because I hate the phrase. I absolutely hate the phrase, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I hate that. It could always be improved. It could always be fixed. It could always be better. Don't even, right? The guys that say that, they want a job. They're not looking to scale. They're looking to have a job. And if you want to be an entrepreneur and build a job for yourself, like that's totally fine. I think my messaging and who I work best for and with and provide the value to are entrepreneurs that want to scale and work on the business, not in the business. And just pick one thing and remove yourself. That's how real scale starts. Just picking one thing and removing yourself.
Jordan, you said you have a special like audit process when you're working with someone to evaluate. I love that question is what's one thing that drives you crazy that depends on you? Because then you just kind of chip away at the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And you mentioned you have this process in the beginning to evaluate. I don't know if it's the company or the person or their tasks. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So my first step in, I call it my bottleneck framework, right, is the audit, right? We figure out exactly where you, the founder, are the bottleneck, right? Where are things being held up? What's taking a lot of your time? We want to map out everything that touches you: decisions, approvals, client communication, operations. I want to measure how much of it actually requires you. Um, Once we see where the friction is, we can decide to start eliminating or delegating or automating any of it, right? If you can document it, you can delegate it, I like to say. So the goal isn't to overwhelm you with systems. It's to find one area that's blocking scale and start removing you from it, right? Remember, remove yourself from one thing. That's it. So that's the foundation for everything that comes next, right? It's figuring out how to remove you from those things.
I love the eliminate, automate, delegate. One of my favorite books is The Goal.
Sure. Yeah.
And it talks a lot about obviously bottlenecks and friction points. So I love, what you're saying here. When you look at, and sometimes I forget just to think of eliminating something. Like, sometimes my mind goes to, well, I should delegate it, automate it, or whatever. Like maybe I should just get rid of it, right? And so what are some of those things that you found that business owners were doing that you're like, let's just get rid of it altogether? Do you remember any of those?
About getting rid of a process altogether?
Yeah, like eliminating whatever, something that someone's doing, right? In that case of, not even automating or delegating, but just removing it. It's unnecessary.
So I don't know. I mean, this all depends on the business, right? Like you gotta look at the facts. You gotta look at what you're doing in the business on a daily basis. But to remove a process, I don't think you're ever actually removing. You're removing yourself from process, but to remove a complete process from your business, I don't think that's ever happening. You're modifying, you're scaling it, maybe. You're maybe even automating it, right? I don't know if eliminating is the right word, right? Like, for instance, take a delivery service, right? An order comes in, um, you know, I'm sure somebody's taking it over the phone. They're putting it into a computer. The computer sends it out to a dispatcher. Dispatcher takes it to your house, right? I'm sure there's even a better way to do it where the dispatcher just gets it right from the computer and eliminates that or removes, right, that middleman. I think things are just constantly should be changed and constantly flowing. I don't know if eliminating a whole process is a way to look at it, though. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
yeah, totally. I'll give you an example from like the podcast. Like early on, I'm like, oh, well, after we record this, I'm gonna just say, oh, kind of record a special intro on every episode, right? And say, you got to check out Jordan because he'll basically help eliminate basically eliminate the bottlenecks in your business and blah, blah, blah. And I was finding I wasn't doing it right after, right? The interview was over. And so could be a couple days and I'd be like, I don't remember everything Jordan said. So I'm going to go back and listen to the interview and then record like a special intro. And I'm like, what would happen if I just didn't record a special intro? Right. And so no one cared. So I was like, that saves me so much time. And that was a bottleneck in my process. And I
Mm-hmm.
just got rid of it. Right.
Well,
So
Well, I was going to say on that note, a lot of founders think they need to fix every process, right? But half the time, what they need to do, to your point, is eliminate them, right? So over time, businesses collect steps that made sense once, but now they just kind of slow things down. So that was something right there that kind of just slowed you down. And then as soon as you realize, like, oh, nothing broke, right? In fact, things got faster, and you relieved some time for yourself. I mean, in some sense, right, elimination is the cleanest form of optimization. But before you automate or delegate or strip out the unnecessary, because no system is better than a bad one that's already been automated, right? So, sometimes it's the cleanest form of optimizing.
yeah,
It's just eliminating. So
I
it all
think,
depends on the situation.
to what you were saying with founders, and that's why what you do is really important because I find sometimes I'm too close to something. I don't see that. I don't see a fresh set of eyes on a business, right? To
Yep.
me, that's normal. I've been doing it for this long. I almost feel like I need to do it, even though I probably don't. So having someone like you who's built these businesses is very valuable to look through and see, because I don't know if this has happened, but someone thinks, oh, this is the thing I need to automate, and you're like, actually, when we did this evaluation, this is seems like way more important to get rid of.
Yeah. So interesting. You just hit something that I say all the time. So about being too close to their own process, right? Like you build it, you built the process, like in your podcast strategy, like in how you spin up a podcast and whatnot, right? Like you built that process. So a lot of the times founders are too close to the process. So you built it, you understand the logic behind every step, and it's hard to see where the waste is. So that's why when people come to me, it's easy for me to look at it, right? And be like, this. When you're that close, everything feels necessary. Everything feels necessary because you're doing it, you built it, even when half of it isn't, right? So you start almost defending inefficiencies because they worked once. That's why an outside audit is so powerful. It's not emotional, it's just data. And as somebody once told me, facts don't have feelings, right? Uh, it's it's not emotional, it's just data. So sometimes you need someone who isn't living inside the process every day to ask, why are we even doing this? Like, what's the point of this, right? Distance creates clarity. And when you zoom out and you realize most bottlenecks aren't people problems, they're visibility problems. You can't see the problem, you know?
What is another thing, Jordan, when you look back at your companies or the people you've helped, what's another thing people stated that drives them crazy that depended on them? We talked about, obviously, in one of your processes, the calls, right? It depended on someone or people weren't booking. The other example with the agency was the kind of the invoices and that kind of thing. What else have you found when you're talking to people is that one thing that's driving them crazy?
Hmm. There's a lot here. a lot to, there's a lot to unpack. Okay, how about this one? I was talking to somebody about in at the same EO dinner last night about answering the same questions over and over and over again, right? Chasing team members for updates, approvals that pile up, watching money come in, um, and time disappear, right? Because you're not scaling effectively. Maybe you're scaling but not well. Um, it's a lot of this goes back to time, right? So scaling revenue, but not themselves, right? Again, pulling the founder out. So every new client now means more chaos, not freedom. I've noticed that a lot of founders are subconsciously like scared of scaling because another client means more questions, or I need to hire more staff, or I need to look at the financials of, is this client profitable, right? Um, and that's really where I come in, right? I help the founders identify exactly where they become that bottleneck. We install the systems, the automation, the structure, so the business runs without depending on them. So the goal isn't more a hustle, it's more clarity and control and more time. If you're looking for more of like a specific example, I know that was like high level. We can take the answering the questions over and over again, right? Let's let's talk about SOPs. Let's talk about automation and using AI to your leverage. Like AI is a wild tool. Like AI is a wild tool. So we're standardizing platforms right now across every one of my companies to standardize SOPs and have AI write the SOPs. I'll record a short Loom video and document something that I'm doing on a daily basis to win in a certain part of the business. I'll upload it to the SOP platform, and I'll have everybody go watch it, and then I'll have that SOP AI platform generate a quiz to make sure everybody fully understands, hey, this is how you win in this specific facet of the business.
I'm curious. I want to talk tech stack for a little bit, right?
Yeah, let's
Because
do it.
people love talking about tech and software and tools. Is that specific one an internal tool, or do you use an external software for SOPs?
For SOPs, we've tried so many tools. I've tried Trainual. Actually another EO member, Trainual.
They've been on the podcast, yeah.
Oh, really? Yeah, yeah, great platform. Ultimately, though, we looked at Trainual, but we ended up going with a company called Whale. Um, and I don't know if you've ever heard of Whale, but wild for SOPs. Wild for SOPs. So we use Whale for learning, onboarding, and SOP creation.
Okay. Yeah.
This isn't
We
affiliated or sponsored or
No,
anything
yeah,
like
of
that. I
course.
just, you know, we
We
love them. We use them.
use, yeah, we use Sweet Process. I have not tested out Whale, but we like Sweet Process. It's an SOP platform that centralizes everything, and yeah, so it's definitely our team is like, thank God we have this thing.
Yep.
What are some of the other important tools, software that you and the team use?
We're big with Loom. We use a lot of Loom, right, to not waste time. You know, what could have been a meeting could have easily been a Loom, I always say. So we'll record like a 1 to 5 minute Loom. Here's what's going on. We can see who read it. Tech stack, we love Slack because it integrates into everything. We use Salesforce as our CRM, standardized on all the companies. Um, Ever since Salesforce rolled out their agentic AI, right, engaging with leads, lost leads or, people that aren't talking to us, it's never been easier. Um, Chat
Well,
GPT,
yeah.
and everybody has a license to our Chat GPT environment. We have our own custom GPTs that we've made to answer questions internally, from everything about HR internally and culture in the company, all the way to customer facing documents and how to create certain, documents and deliverables to make sure every customer is getting the right things across every company.
Do you use anything from like a project management perspective, like assigning tasks?
Yeah, so we use Monday.com. We tried Asana, we tried ClickUp, ended up going with Monday again because of integration. So the more things a platform integrates to, the better. I like things that are connected. I don't want to have redundancy. So, we can integrate. We use Google Workspace on our back end for every company. So we can integrate Google Workspace with Monday, OpenAI, Slack, Salesforce. They all integrate to each other at every single company. So there's no redundancy in data. There's always a source of truth.
Anything from like you guys get I mean, it's amazing the inbound leads and things you get from your companies. Are there any like phone systems that you use that connects everything, or does the Salesforce kind of allow you to do that?
So Salesforce allows us to do it all as far as like a customer relationship management tool. But when it comes to inbound leads, I mean, every company's different, right? IT Select is dominantly more of an outbound company. So I have a team making anywhere between 3,000 to 4,000 calls a day, right? So the sales
Wow.
math, right? I was talking about sales math last night and doing the sales funnel and the sales math, right? Like we need this many leads every single month to go in top of funnel. This many touches need to happen. If we are over this amount of touches, kick that lead out of the funnel because they're not going to answer the phone. I am a big subscriber to um, the Pareto method, right? 20% versus 80%. So I know 20% is going to pick up the phone, 20% of that is going to book a meeting, 20% of that is going to be qualified, 20% of that is going to get through the sales process. So, it's very simple to work backwards on how many leads I need in the top of the funnel every month. For IT Select, for Maryland's DJ, it's almost the exact opposite because that's an inbound company. So it's more based on Instagram reels and hold rates on reels, right? How many people have followed us that month? Um, so people find us by searching, what does our SEO look like? Uh, Everything is totally different. But the one thing that is true across all the companies is that there is sales math. There is always sales math. There is always a funnel, and you have to understand your sales math, your numbers, and your funnel if your business is going to scale successfully.
Yeah, Jordan, you brought up a really good point. I think about Pareto's principle maybe every hour, and I had Perry Marshall who wrote 80/20 Sales and Marketing, who he Richard Koch has, like, if you go on anyone goes on Audible, he's got the 80/20 book. So Perry actually went to, I don't know if it was Portugal or Spain, to like spend time with Richard Koch, who wrote 80/20. So Perry came out with like the 80/20, like applied it to sales and marketing and came out with it. So of course I listened to all of the 80/20 books. Like if I can get that little extra nugget from, I mean, it's a
Sure.
simple principle, right? But it's, 20% of whatever, activity leads to 80% of the results, or however you want to apply it. But I definitely love going deep in that on that specific topic. I'm curious, and the call, that's crazy amount of calls per day. How do you manage that from like a technology perspective? There are certain, again, like softwares or things that you're using to at least do the outbound stuff?
Yeah, so there's all different types of dialers out there. Right now in the U.S., AI dialing, I'm pretty sure is illegal. You can't do that at scale. I think you can do it for inbound calls, which we do because that's people are requesting info, so they've opted in essentially. Um, we actually have humans. We have a whole team overseas that is doing outbound calls. We use something called a parallel dialer, which is basically a human component dialer. So there's a bunch of people in a call center. They're making hundreds of dials a day for my team, and as soon as they get somebody on the line, beep goes in the ear, and my team gets the pickup. So between that and the 10-80-10 rule, I would say those are the biggest nuggets for scaling for founders right now.
I'm curious, Jordan, from your standpoint, you've had mentors, colleagues throughout your career, and who are some of those advisors and some of the great advice they've given you?
A lot of people in EO. Well, EO has been so fruitful in that way, in understanding not just your business and how it relates to your home life, right? But also how your home life relates to your business. Those are some big things. But first and foremost, my dad was an entrepreneur, right?
What was his business?
So my dad, when I was a kid, a toddler, my dad was big in the Domino's pizza boom. So when I was a little kid, I think like ages 1 to 6 or 7, he had a bunch of Domino's franchises in the Mid-Atlantic. Everything from North Carolina to Jersey. He had a Domino's pizza franchise. I remember being a kid and making pizzas in the Domino's pizzas. That's where my birthday party was. So that was really fun. I got some cute pictures as a kid doing that. My dad took a page out of Mr. Wonderful's book from Shark Tank, and he always pressed me when I was starting my businesses really early on, know your numbers, right? I think I took that a step further because he was always referring to financials, right? Profit margins, net income, just the basic things on a P&L. I took it a step further, in sales math. Right. So I know the amount of leads, like I mentioned, the amount of touches, the amount of phone calls, how many proposals versions need to happen before we average, a sale. So know your numbers. If you don't know your numbers in your ICP as a founder, big red flag, right? You might just be creating a job for yourself.
Any other EO members and advice they've given you that's been helpful?
So many. I'll give a shout out to Kate in New York. So Kate, I don't want to throw out a last name, but I'm sure you could figure it out with a simple LinkedIn search. So she's a LinkedIn expert, right? And for her, she was telling me, I was on the phone with her a couple weeks ago, creating content creates trust. And as an entrepreneur with multiple businesses, right, you need to create trust in multiple verticals and industries. So something I'm leaning into more recently is creating content, right? Getting myself out there. And, if you got a bunch of entrepreneurs in the room, the one that is going to make himself uncomfortable more often than not is the one that's going to win, right? You got to put yourself in uncomfortable situations. And most entrepreneurs, right? Like we're natural salespeople, we're natural leaders, but we don't like making ourselves uncomfortable, like putting ourselves on camera a lot of the times. So she was telling me, you got to make yourself content and trustworthy through that content, and other people will want to work with you that way because they'll be able to see you, and you'll gain that authority in that space by making that content. Put yourself in an uncomfortable situation by creating that content. So hope that makes sense. But I'm trying to do that myself.
It's amazing, Jordan. Like some of the people I talk to, and they're so impressive, and they're concerned about sharing. I don't know, whatever. I don't know what they're concerned about, honestly. Like just maybe they haven't done it, but just getting on video and even we're chatting. It's maybe just that muscle that needs to be flexed. But I'm thinking you're a rock star. You should be sharing like all of the knowledge and things, and people want to hear it. So I don't know what, maybe something's holding people back, I guess. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, and that's the plan to do with my coaching piece, right? And I talked about the bottleneck framework, as I'm calling it. I talked about a little bit, just people in EO reaching out to me. How do I remove myself from this? How do I remove myself from that? How do I delegate this effectively? How do I scale the business and not be in it so much? So I'm going to be doing a lot of that in the coming weeks. I'm actually going to be rolling out jordansolender.com, where you can talk to me about IT consulting, business coaching, business consulting, automation and AI injection, all of these things. I'm going to kind of consolidate there to jordansolender.com.
Last question, Jordan, and before I ask it, I just want to thank you for sharing your knowledge and your journey with all of us. And people can check out, as you mentioned, jordansolender.com and also itselect.io for more info. Just some of your favorite books, resources. Obviously, you're a well-studied guy, and you're talking about the sales process and bottlenecks and SOPs and Pareto principle. What are some of your favorite books of all time that people should check out that has been valuable for you?
Absolutely. So the one book I give to every salesperson or operator that I hire, when I hire them over the past, I would say 5 to 7 years, has been Chris Voss's Never Split the Difference.
Chris was a guest, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, man, I'd love to meet him. So fantastic speaker, great author, phenomenal book. Right. The next is Dan Martell, Buy Back Your Time. So I would say those two have made the biggest impact on me as a leader, a coach, business owner. Those two. I
love it. Jordan, I want to be the first one to thank you. Thanks for sharing the journey. jordansolender.com, itselect.io. We'll see everyone next time. Jordan, thanks so much.
Thank you, Jeremy. Have a great day.
What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I feel like $100 grand.